Well, hello everybody. Thank you for joining us. I'm really excited about today's interview. I know that a lot of you are either listening to this interview on any of our podcast channels or watching it on our YouTube page or any other social media channels. I know you're going to get a lot out of this. This is one of our industry experts range of recordings that we have, and we always really like to find out what's going on in each of the different industries that we work across. What's happening today, especially as I record this. We've got crazy changes around the world called COVID-19, and it's affecting business owners and everyday people on a pretty incredible scale that we haven't seen today. Today, I'm joined by Josh Fielding from the Australasian Timber Flooring Association. Josh, thank you and welcome to the show, mate. Thank you for being here. They're very well known, obviously, in that industry itself. There's so many great associations that do so much for their members. I highly recommend, whether you're in the trade or you're not in trade, whatever it is, if you're in business, just being a part of, your association is critical, not only to support the associations, but for the associations to support you as well. And that's why I'm really excited about getting people that are really at the top of their game and at the pinnacle of what's going on within the industry itself. So, Josh, I was just wondering if I can start, mate, by just telling me maybe a little bit about you and a bit about the association itself, just for the members that are either listening to it, that don't know too much about the ATFA. So I was wondering if you just tell us a little bit, an overview about the association.
Yeah, sure. No problems at all, Nick. So, the Australasian Timber Flooring Association, which is abbreviated ATFA, as most people know, is the peak industry body throughout Australasia in the timber flooring industry. We're a not-for-profit association, has over 850 members, registered members at the moment, which works out to be about 5,500 members all up. So one company is a member, so it's not an individual membership. So if you've got a flooring company who might have 10 to 20 staff, they all come under that one membership. A lot of manufacturing groups as well have up to 5,000 who come under that one membership. So as we're not-for-profit, we have a board. We cover Australasia, so we go across the ditch to our New Zealand members, all around Australia and Southeast Asia. We also are lucky to have a few members in the United States as well.
Pretty awesome. And just with that, where it comes to an association, tell us a bit about kind of what the association does, the consumer services, that your association does for their members. And I noticed that, you guys have got a pretty big range from contractors, manufacturers, and suppliers as well, right?
That's correct.
Three main areas that you work on. So, tell us a bit about what people, kind of expect when they join your association.
Yeah, sure. So, as you said, we cover a vast group of different memberships. Everything that goes into a timber flooring system can be a member of the association. So you start off at the very top from the sawmills. We have sawmills who are members of the association. Then to the manufacturers of the timber, we cover solid timber, we cover engineered, bamboo, laminate, and decking and hybrid flooring. So there's a lot of importers come into the membership. Mm-hmm. Then you look at the system. We've got the one man who works out of a van with a dog and a sanding machine as a contractor who's a member. To the big contracting and construction companies around Australia come under the membership in the building industry. And then you look at what goes into the flooring system. So you've got the adhesive companies, the glues are members, then the underlays go in the flooring are members, and then the abrasives, the sanding machines, and all the tools that go into sanding. And then the last thing is the coatings. The coating companies, your Duluxes, and all those big companies around the country come that membership. So not one membership suits all, obviously, because one man on his own compared to a big manufacturing company, obviously tailored for different needs. Mm-hmm. So it is a big different sector that covers the ATFA.
And I'm figuring for you guys, it's about really finding out what the latest things like laws and legislations, updates in the industry, right? It's that type of work is what you guys do as an association, correct?
Yeah, exactly right. And that's what our members need to know. When legislation changes, government regulations come in, we need to be able to give them those updates straight away and what they need to do to earn to get to those levels. And obviously at the moment we're going through some pretty severe COVID-19 restrictions down in Victoria. So we need to explain to our members in Victoria what they can and can't do with these restrictions and what they need to have with their COVID safe plans, and we supply them to our members as well.
Yeah, gotcha. Perfect. See, rather than guessing, you're hearing it straight from the source, right?
That's right.
That's the key to it.
That's right. And you've got to be on the front foot as an association. You've got to get to the information to your members first before they find it through other avenues.
Perfect. And just before we started this show, you were telling me, Josh, that you've sort of been in the association for about 5.5 years, somewhere there. Tell me a little bit about kind of why you've joined and, what makes it so awesome, obviously, to be there. You've been there 5.5 years.
Yep.
Just maybe a bit of your background and how it came to be that you're obviously in this association.
Yeah, so I guess my role at the Australasian Timber Flooring Association is a member and events manager. So I guess what appealed to me was the role was, one was running events, which I've got an operations management background anyway, so my job is I fly around Australasia on a week-on, week-off basis, running industry trade nights, gala dinners, association golf days and breakfasts for our members. And then the other side of my role is the membership. So I work one-on-one with members individually. I go through and I sign them up, but I also go out and help them and talk them through strategies and how to make their business more professional as well by offering them contracts and warranties and swims and all those professional documents. So yeah, for me, it was the two roles that really interested me. The both. One, I get to see the country, get out and see the members face to face, and put a face to the voice. So it's not just someone on the phone, but also kind of helping them grow their businesses, which is what I really enjoy as well.
Mm-hmm. Sounds like that one-on-one connection that you have with people making a difference.
For a small not-for-profit association, you need to have those relationships.
Mm-hmm.
We're not a big master builders or a HIA, where they've got 50,000 members. We're a small individual little sector with that one-on-one relationship. So when the phone rings, you actually know a bit more personal about each other, which is great.
Yeah, I love it. And I think today, just having that personalized service and personalized connection is really what a lot of people are after. They're sick of the big places where you're just a number, effectively.
That's right. And you ring a hotline and you're just on hold. We don't have that. It's just straight to my mobile. It's me every time. So that you get to know those relationships on a personal matter, and you get to know about the children, their families, their lives. And when it comes through to that renewal time, which everyone hates because you've got to pull a hand into your pocket to pay some dollars, it's a lot more personal. And it's not that should I or shouldn't I. It's more it's like a big family, and that's the way we look at it because we care.
I love it, like a big family. They're very similar to the values we've got, with our coaching company. We know all our clients by name. We know their kids. We know their birthdays.
That's it.
It's all of that stuff. So, and tell me, Josh, what do you see sort of happening right now in the industry? I mean, we started the year with bushfires, which isn't good for obviously suppliers trying to get materials, right? Because
correct,
it's made out of wood.
Correct.
Wood, right? And I'm just wondering, what you're seeing in the industry, maybe the last 6 to 12 months, maybe the changes, things are a bit different. I'm just wondering if you can sort of give us a bit of an overview on how you're seeing the industry, maybe some of the changes, that are in it, or kind of just what's happening today as a snapshot.
Sure. So there's quite a lot's happened, obviously, in the last 12 months in, obviously, natural disasters with the bushfires, as you said, the COVID-19 coming through, which has really affected the building industry as a whole. Starting off, going back, if you went before Christmas, things look very positive in our industry throughout Australasia. New Zealand were probably hitting record KPIs. Tasmania was leading the way in all of Australia. Smaller population, but for the building industry, they had 7 cranes in the air down in Hobart. And I'm a Hobart boy, and there was never one crane in the sky when I was growing up down there. So it was really, really positive. And then, unfortunately, we had the devastating bushfires through January, which really hurt some of our big corporate members, who are the manufacturers, the sawmills, with supply and demand. They lost lots of forestry, and then obviously it snowballs through for the contractors not being able to get the supply of timber because it's not there to manufacture because it's been burnt out. So there was a real kind of, a hold up there with a lot of supplies, which did not help, obviously, the industry. And that kind of COVID-19 kind of came in where that was finishing in March. We started to see COVID-19 come in, and that had different effects all over the country. New Zealand, you saw, they went to a straight down lockdown back in March where they shut the whole country down. Australia, each state did a little bit different. Some sectors, were a lot tighter than others. And what we found, it was interesting. There were some members who actually, come out better off from COVID-19. And I'll say, for examples, There were schools were shut down all over the country. There was restaurants, nightclubs, bars, all these things. And a lot of these have timber floors in them. So that got our members quite busy. This is because schools don't close down very often, or nightclubs, when people can get in and do some rectification work on those old floors. So we found out a lot of members were kind of getting calls out of the blue saying, we're closed, this is our chance, can you get in and restand the gym and stuff like that. So there was members who found it was just great, especially in the regional areas. And then obviously there was the spin-off of the other, where we had, the Melbournes and Sydney, where the contractors in the big city, they completely shut down their sand and polishing work, and now they're playing catch-up. And unfortunately, Melbourne at the moment is obviously still in these lockdowns, and they are finding it very tough. And Melbourne is the key to Australia in the manufacturing kind of market as well. So when Melbourne suffers, we all suffer. And as an association, we can't run any of our events. We can't do any face-to-face until Melbourne's back to being able to, travel to Melbourne, because the manufacturing exhibitors all fly out of Melbourne.
Yeah, it's interesting. A lot of my clients, because we specialize in the trade and construction industry, have, like you said, have been flat out, really busy all over the country. We're not seeing any changes in a lot of the states. What we've also found was, let's say, our businesses in Victoria, because of the lockdown, it's allowed them to sort of take a bit more of a look at the business itself, the old adage of working in the business versus working on. Sometimes you just need that little breather just to go, okay, cool, there's other things that we can do. And it's interesting how, like I said, I wouldn't have thought about a nightclub or closing down, or a gym. Hey, look, we can get stuff done right now, because traditionally they're open, gyms 365 days, but, even nightclubs, that they can't afford to be closed
for a couple of weeks, not at all.
A long period of time. So I suppose what comes from that is opportunity, where some people see devastation, which
exactly right.
Is that, and I suppose just as a segue to that, Josh, how do you see the next sort of 2 to 3 years pan out? As an association, how do you guys see that for your members? Do you guys feel kind of optimistic that there's going to be, growth? I mean, obviously, as a nation, we're going to be financially in a reasonably difficult area, but I feel that the government's really pushing strong to back bodies like yourselves, and to back the construction industry to really push hard, because it's kind of our, biggest industry, obviously employing the most amount of people. From a projection point of view, I'm just wondering what you guys see in the next 2 to 3 years.
Yeah, obviously looking into our crystal ball, but we are positive. Obviously we've got to get through this COVID stage first, but the building industry was very strong before it, and we feel it will come back again. We've seen even some circumstances, like over in WA, they've had a really tough last decade in the building industry. Once the mining went down over there, it really did. It crashed pretty quick. And a lot of the contractors over there have really just been, working day to day. But we're finding at the moment things are starting to pick up over in WA. They're starting to look in the mining sector to take off a little bit more over in WA. And so the contractors over there have probably had more work this year than they've had in the last 5 years built up already. So we're seeing maybe the Eastern Seaboard maybe tapering off a little bit, I guess you could say, because they've had a great 3 or 4 years in the construction industry. While over the West and South Australia, we're seeing maybe it's their turn to take off a little bit more. But like I said, with the way the government regulations are going out and government spending to get businesses back on their feet, we feel it's going to be quite positive once we get through these restrictions.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's good to see positive outlook like that. And I think, as you're saying, Josh, I think backed by the government as opportunity. Australians always seem to pull through. We'll figure it out. I mean, that's how it works. And
that's right.
I think you're right. It can't always be sunny all the time. Sometimes you need to have those shifts in the different areas. It's interesting. Probably 5, 6 years ago with us in WA. We saw businesses really cranking. There was a lot of boom. And then, like you said, once the mining industry tapered off, a lot of different contractors from all walks of life were doing it a little bit tougher. Those guys that prepared kept on riding it, and they're good to go. The other guys that weren't prepared kind of fell by the wayside. And I suppose that's the importance of what we were talking about before. It's not just about being a good tradesperson or a good wholesaler or a supplier or whatever it is, or manufacturer. It's actually about being a good business owner.
That's correct. And the other point on top of that, Nick, is what we've found when it hits down times, and everyone has them. What it can do in the timber flooring industry, especially for contractors, there's only licensing in Queensland and South Australia. So the rest of Australia, there's no licensing unless it's structural flooring, which needs to be done by a builder. So what we find in some of the downtimes in certain states, the word cowboy gets used a lot in the timber flooring industry. There's a lot of cowboys. There's no licensing. Anyone can go tomorrow to Bunnings, buy himself a sanding machine, buy some coating, and then advertise in the paper, Josh's floor sanding business, come and, I'm for hire without having to do any training, any skills, start up a business just like that. But what we find when the downturn comes, the cowboys get weeded out. The good ones survive. They've been there usually before that and they've seen it and they've come through it. And the good ones always still get the work, you know what I mean? But the cowboys, when things are booming, are getting a bit of a work and it's very easy to join this industry. I don't need any skill sector. They get weeded out and it leaves the quality over the quantity. And we do find that happens quite a bit as well.
Yeah, look, I really love that, Josh. I think you're 100% correct. I think all tough scenarios do for people is it just weeds out the people that just aren't willing to put the effort in.
Correct.
They're a fly-by-nighter and, unfortunately they give the rest a bad name, which is
they do.
Not good as well. And I think standards are really, really important from every business owner, I feel.
Exactly.
So, I'm just wondering, Josh, if you had to speak directly to members or people that are going to listen to this, podcast around Australia, what advice would you give your members today? If you had, a couple of words of advice to go, look, I mean, you see a lot of people, you've seen hundreds, if not thousands of members that are with you. I mean, like you said, it's 850, but it's some members have got 5,000.
That's right.
People associated. So I'm just wondering what your advice would be, just in today and moving forward for the next 6 to 12 months.
Yeah. So my advice generally to members, and it's been going on for now about 6 months, when you're when you're busy, things are great. You don't need your probably association's help as much. They're great to be there when there's a technical issue you might need to call us about, or a consumer or a builder won't pay the bill. You need us to get some legal help, give you some legal advice and all that stuff. But when things are rosy, you usually, I've got my members, I'm part of the family, but I don't need them at the moment. But when things are quieter, this is the time we find you should come to your association, get your business professional documents up to date, get your warranties, your contracts. Are you promoting that you're a member of ATFA on your websites, business cards, your vehicles, stuff like that? Could be the 1% difference between you getting the job and not getting the job if you're going for quotes. Mrs. Smith down the road might not know, but if 2 quotes go in and one says they're part of a governing organisation called the ATFA versus Josh, who's not a member of anything, and there's no support if he wrecks my floors or doesn't turn up for the job, you're more likely to get the job. So that's what our advice is at the moment. So we have accreditation. So we say to our members, when you're quiet, why don't you get your accreditation up to date? Because it makes you stand out from the pack, and that's the difference from getting the job or not.
Yeah, I really love that, Josh. You said something that was interesting right there, where you said the Mr. and Mrs. Smith that don't know who it is, if they, quote for quote, and you're somebody that absolutely has that governing body behind them. What I love about it is they feel more confident. So that's it's not just that you're a part of the association, that you're, trying to be, it's good because I'm a member to a member. It's actually good that the public is confident of you, right? And
it's an insurance policy for the homeowner as well. That's why there's a lot of times where it does get messy, and flooring contractors, builders, that does have issues, and there's arguments between consumers and those parties. But when they can just go to the governing body just to get those answers, and they don't have to argue about it, and it's a standard, it's an industry standard. Here it is. It's not his word versus her word, or what I mean. It's in black and white, and we can give you the documents with that in. It nips it in the butt very early, and and it can keep the relationship on track.
Yeah, I love it. It's interesting how people sort of don't think about that, where they're a part of an association. They don't think about how they've got the ability to feel confident and use that as a sales tool.
That's right.
Because, to me, somebody that's already a part of an association, when they come as a, where they're going to do aircon for me, plumbing, whatever it is,
yep.
I already know that there's a standard there.
Yep.
So I think everybody that's listening to this, I think it's not only just to go, we just pay fees for the association, that's it. You just got to think about How can you maximize that? Can you put that on your marketing? Can you tell people, hey, we're a part of this body that looks after you just as much as it looks after me?
That's
Right? Which is
exactly
kind
right.
of cool because, like you're saying, anybody that's Mrs. Smith that then needs to make a phone call to go, look, I've had this tradesman, they're a part of your association. I wasn't happy with this, or can you point me in the right direction? To me, I think that's a
That's
excellent
exactly right.
opportunity as well. So.
And at the association, we created two different websites for so we've got a members only one, which is atfa.com.au, and that's where our members go and they need technical documents, or they need their swims, they need an information sheet on sanding a floor, something they can give to the homeowner. But we went and created a second website called floorchoices.com.au, and that's tailored at Mrs. Smith, who she's building a house or doing a renovation. But where do you start? What species of timber flooring suits you? What about the coatings? How does that suit your household? All these questions that, if you're not in the building industry, you don't know. So we created that website where they can go through and it says why this timber suits, some timber doesn't suit having two dogs in their house, why some timbers will suit having kids in their house. There's different species for certain lifestyles. And, and I guess it's probably not explained to the homeowner enough, these I guess answers. People go, what do you want? You go, yep, I like that, I like that, I like that in the showroom. They come home, we get a phone call 6 months later saying, oh, it's scratched, it's my high heel's gone through and dented it, And it's like, yeah, you've gone and picked the soft wood when maybe your lifestyle needed a hardwood. And but the person in the shop didn't tell us that. Yeah, okay.
Isn't that interesting? Like, I've done obviously renovations to my house, and most of the times I'm just like, I like that color.
Yeah.
I wasn't even thinking that, and I've got a dog too, and
right.
She scratched the floor. I mean, it was a floor that we had here already, but you just don't realize that there's these opportunities. So so once again, people that are listening to this, the associations aren't just for you as a member, but it can also help the consumer feel more confident with you.
That's right. And it's education. That's the thing. It's key is getting the education out there.
Very good.
But with the Floor Choices website, all our contractors are on these websites. So, Mrs. Smith can go to that and she can see the services he provides, gives her a contact number to get a quote, and they go onto both websites, ATFA and Floor Choices. And, and you always get in from the members, oh, what's in it for me? Well, it's actually very cheap advertising on two different websites. It gets over 4,000 hits a month from the consumer going to that website. You advertise in a magazine or a newspaper, it's $1,500 to $2,000 just for one article. This is that's right. And this is 365 days of the year. You're on two websites. So
well, once again, same thing, great benefits for them. And just finally, Josh, how can people get in touch with you if they want to know more about, the ATFA, and what's a good way for them to reach out?
So if you're interested in becoming a part of the association, we recommend go to atfa.com.au, and you can have all the information about memberships is there, what we give our members, what technical documents are included, the industry standards we cover for solid, engineered, bamboo, laminate, hybrid, decking, we cover it all. So it's not just timber flooring, we look after the decking market as well. Please, if anyone has any questions, they can send me an email at josh@atfa.com.au, and I can give you a call, just have a chat, or you can give me a call anytime on 0408 605 456.
Very good. Well, there you have it, members. People that are watching this or listening to this, please reach out. If you're in that industry, obviously, reach out to Josh. I think it's amazing. If not, reach out to your association. It's good to have these people that are there to work hard for you, keep you in business, keep you growing, and most importantly, make it win-win relationships between those. Josh, thank you for your time, brother, man. I appreciate it, and I look forward to hopefully continuing our journey.
That's it. My pleasure, Nick. Thanks for having me.
All right, mate.